And so thank you all so much for joining us today, whether you're joining us live or you're joining us recorded later at a later date. Thank you. We welcome you, and we're so glad that you're here. My name is Jenna Quinn, and it's my pleasure as the Assistant Director of Alumni and Affinity Engagement to welcome you all. We just need to inform everyone that this session is being recorded. So really all that's going to mean for you is that this will be available for you again on demand on our website at www.csulb.edu/alumni. And since this is a webinar format, if you are someone who joined us live today, you have the ability to use that Q&A box at the top of your screen to submit any questions that you have for our guest speaker today. And we encourage you to submit your question whenever you have it. Don't wait till the end because we might miss you. So feel free to just go ahead and enter it at any time. And then in recognition of Mayor Rex Richardson's initiative Grow Long Beach, this semester we're focusing our 49er industry chats on the hospitality and tourism industry, which is one of the industries that Grow Long Beach is aiming to bolster in our community. And so as a part of that, we are so excited to introduce our featured speaker today, Natalie Mgonja. Did I get that right?
Oh, you did. Good. Yeah, it's always a little bit tricky for people, but you did amazing. Yep, Natalie Mgonja.
Well, welcome, Natalie. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me here today.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to take a quick moment to read your bio to kind of give everybody a little bit of foundation of who you are, what you're doing, and then we'll get started. Sound good?
Cool. Sounds good.
Awesome. So Natalie is a Tanzanian-American experience curator, travel planner, and founder of Backyard Ventures, a a company redefining tourism through slow, intentional, and well-focused travel. After earning her degree in communication studies from Cal State Long Beach, she returned to Tanzania, navigating startups and tech before building her own path in experiential travel. Through retreats, co-living, and curated adventures, she invites travelers to immerse themselves in regenerative travel, connecting with themselves, the local community, and nature beyond the surface level tourist experience. Her work blends mindfulness, creativity, and adventure, fostering personal transformation and deeper connections. Natalie is passionate about reshaping how people experience travel, turning it into a journey of self-discovery, cultural immersion, and sustainable impact. Natalie, wow.
Wow, it sounds so nice.
Yeah, no, it really
Like
does.
hearing you. Wow.
Yeah, hearing it back sometimes you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Well, here, let's just launch right into those questions so that way we can get to discover the journey that you yourself have taken. And so let's start with a little bit of background on you. What was your life and your experiences like that led you to come to CSULB in the first place?
Yeah. Okay. I've been thinking about this question because I'm like, there's a journey because I'm Tanzanian, so I'm back in Tanzania. I was born here. And then around the age of, I think I was 8 years old because I was going into third grade. My mom, my sister, and I moved from Tanzania to Long Beach, California, and pretty much like set up there. And started a new life in Long Beach. And so I went to Longfellow Elementary School, and then I went to Hughes Middle School, and then to Lakewood High School. And I remember I wasn't really sure where I wanted to go for university or to college. What I did is I was just like, I'm gonna look at what my older sister does, and I'm just gonna follow her path because like I don't know, I'm not really sure. I know there's all these Cal States, and I know there's all these like bigger universities, but I'm not even sure what I want to do or like what I want to study. So I was like, I'm gonna take my time with it. So actually, what I did first after high school is I went to community college. I went to Long Beach City College. And there, I kind of used those first 2 years as like playing the field and seeing what I wanted, I first went into like business, and I was like, actually, I don't really like this. And it's actually so funny because the two degrees that I was pursuing initially are kind of what I do now in a way, because I run a business, but I tried business and then I was like, don't really like this. And I went into psychology and I was like, wow, this is fascinating, and it resonates so much, but I'm a little bit too sensitive to other people's emotions. I thought I wanted to be a therapist. And so I was like, maybe not. That might be a little bit too challenging for me. And then I found communication studies and I was like, oh crap, this is exactly what I want to do. It fits in perfect because it has so many elements to it. And I'm someone who has so many elements to myself. And that's probably why I ended up in entrepreneurship. But so once I kind of like decided on that, it was so much easier for me to decide what college I wanted to go to. And the first thing that I wanted to do was go to Cal State Long Beach. I already had friends that were going there. I heard so many great things about Cal State Long Beach, and I wasn't really sure what I was going to find when I got there, but I'm so glad that that's the school that I chose, just because I felt like I fit right in. It was perfect for me. But yeah, that's my journey. My journey started all the way from Tanzania, came to Long Beach, went through like my little discovery process at Long Beach City College, and then I ended up at Cal State Long Beach.
That's fantastic. I love that. I love the way you described, like, it just felt like you fit. And like
Yeah.
I wanna ask more about that. Like, what was your student experience like? What were the elements that made it so you felt like you fit? Did you have like clubs that you were a part of, or student orgs, or maybe there were professors or peers that you met that were, transformative?
Yeah, I would definitely say, and excuse me, I have a little cold coming on, but I would definitely say that the people, I think the professors that I had were so in support of my journey, that, and it felt very different. Like being in high school and even being at Long Beach City College, like there was like a certain level of like kind of figure it out on your own. But when I got to Cal State Long Beach, it was like, we're going to make sure that you get through this. I wanted to study abroad, and I had like the best counselor that was like, we're going to figure out how we're going to make these milestones work and the capstones and all of these things that I probably wouldn't have been able to figure out myself. And I wanted to study abroad in Spain, but then that didn't work. And like everything was just kind of like, we're here to help you and to uplift you and to make sure that you get through this. And then also just being able to kind of select the courses that I wanted. And a lot of them really resonated with me on a personal level, also like on an educational level too. But that for me was where I was like, wow, I love this place. And then I met some of the most amazing people there. Some of my best friends are still like that I still talk to this day. I met at Cal State Long Beach. So um, I didn't have the opportunity to join any clubs or activities because I was traveling so much. I was still traveling between Tanzania and California because my dad was still living here. So I didn't have the luxury of doing that. I was very curious about it. I think I dabbed into some acting clubs and things like that, but I wasn't fully committed in anything in that way. Yeah.
Well, that's great. And I love that you still continued to travel, right?
Yeah.
Because it kind of, in addition to the communication skills, like it
Absolutely.
you building that travel bug, right? Or that seemed to kind of serve you later.
Absolutely. Yep. And I didn't really realize it until I found myself in this industry, and I was like, oh, it makes sense actually, because I'd been doing it for so long. And then like once I did the study abroad and I went to Italy, that's when I was like, my life has changed. I'm definitely going to do something that has a focus in travel. I don't know how, I don't know what, but I definitely want to, I remember in like 2014, before I graduated, I posted something on Instagram that was like, will work for travel and food. And I was like, I don't know what it's going to be, but something has to get me out there that has a focus on travel and food. So here I am.
So, in addition to back and forth in Tanzania, and you had a study abroad in Italy, were there anywhere else that you were able to travel while you were a student?
Well, I was a student.
Or
I,
since.
I well, yeah. So I think while I was in school, I'm mostly like, I went to like Arizona or to Vegas, or
Of
like
course, of
within,
course.
the standard. And then I spent some time when I would travel back and forth. I spent a lot of time visiting Dubai, for instance, because that's where we would stop over, or Amsterdam. And then I really, really started, like, my wanderlust kicked in after I got out of Cal State Long Beach, and I just went everywhere after that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, I'd love to talk about that, right? And what
Ooh.
that like next step after Cal State Long Beach was for you, and getting into the business that you're in. Is it something that, was you knew like this is what I want to do, or is it more that you kind of fell into it?
I really fell into it. Um, there's like so many parts of the journey that I think about, and like it was exactly how it was supposed to be panned out to be, but I didn't. I guess I would say I still was in hospitality when I started running my events, but it wasn't so deep into the travel element until about 3 years after I started my events, because I started, so I came back to Tanzania, and the first thing I did is I started working for startups. That was when like tech startups were coming up, and I had this project management experience. And actually, sorry, backtrack, before I graduated from Cal State Long Beach, um, I took an events course. It was like one of my very last courses that I took. And I remember we ran this like charity event, and it was called Pause for Pause, like pause for pause, like animal pause. And so we were basically contributing towards a charity of our choice. And I was doing a lot of like the logistical and the fundraising and like all of the admin of it. And I was like, this is so fulfilling. I absolutely love this. This is what I want to get into. Again, not sure how, we'll see what comes up. I remember doing an internship for a company that was organizing celebrity events. And I was like, this is cool, but this isn't not quite what I was looking for, but I still got a lot of experience from doing that. And then when I moved back to Tanzania, I was working. And then at some point I was like, what if I just run an event and see how it goes? And I did that. And the first one was great. And then the second one, a lot of people were curious about it. I was actually just doing it at my parents' backyard. I'm at my parents' house now. So I was in their backyard, and that's where the name came from, because we're now called Backyard Ventures, but we started off as Backyard Soiree because it was a backyard event in the evening, invite friends over, and we were doing anything artistic. It was like a way for me to meet new people in the city and for other people to meet each other in a way that's different than meeting at a party or a bar or a networking event where you're just exchanging business cards. I was like, how can we make it social, but also make it like a mindful, therapeutic kind of event? So we did things with our hands. And then that kind of took off, and, restaurants and hotels were interested in it. And they were using it more of like a marketing effort so that we could bring people to their establishment. And I was like, oh, okay. And then somehow once I got connected to them, I started getting connected into, that side of hospitality. And I was like, what if we start doing retreats? And then we started organizing retreats because, again, I was like, I love travel. How do I fit that in? So my curiosity for exploring Tanzania, the creative events that I was having already, I just kind of combined those two. And then found hotels in like remote places or like off the beaten path locations, or places that really didn't have that much exposure but really needed it. So I was supporting them in marketing, and then they were offering us a service in this way, and then we would bring people along. And then that also seemed to have some interest, which then turned into, well, how do we get people to stay longer? Because retreats are like 3 days, 5 days a week. But I felt like Tanzania needed much more time than that. And so I was like, if I can get people to stay for at least 1 month, and we curate everything from top to bottom for them. We do the accommodation, we do the meals, we do the detailed itinerary. We figure out what they like, personalize it for them, so it really feels like a journey that's just for them. And so I started co-living. So I found a house that had enough rooms. It was basically like running a lodge. So I had a house, I rented it out. People would come from all over, like ideally digital nomads or people on sabbatical, people that could take their work anywhere with them, or they didn't have to work per se. So they come, they spend, I've had people spend about a month to 3 months with us. And it was literally like probably 2 months ago where I stopped and I was like, wait, hold on, am I running a lodge? Like, am I now so deep in hospitality that like this is what I'm doing? How did I go from retreats to now people are here for month long? Um, and I don't know that, but yeah. So when I say I fell into it, it was just like one thing after the other, after the other, after the other, and here I am. And I feel like that's how a lot of things have panned out for me in life. I'm just like, let's see where it goes, and then yeah.
I like that. I like that mindset. I mean, I think, and I think that it's kind of rare almost. I mean, how did you ever have like moments of like, oh man, I don't know if this is gonna pan out? And what did you do when you were in those moments, if they existed?
Yeah. No, oh, they definitely exist. And then you have to remember that you are in a society and surrounded by peers who have a lot of things planned out. And they're like, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna get this job. And then once I finish that, I'm gonna go here and then I'm gonna, and that's beautiful. But for me, I've just never really had that kind of mindset. So it's easy for me to feel insecure or unsure. I think what I've always done is I'm like, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. I'm just going to trust this process as much as I can. And if it doesn't work out, then I know I need to move on to something else. And there's always going to be opportunities coming in my direction. The more I grow, the more I learn what I'm interested in because I'm always changing, I'm always evolving. But I just seem to always find myself, the more I actually align with what my values are, the more I realize that I'm in the right spaces and I'm doing the things that fit with that.
That's fantastic. And what dialing it into more specifics, right? Like, um, what would you say like a typical day in your current position in your business? What would a typical day look like?
That is a fascinating question. I always, it's always so funny because when I am talking to like friends who have, like a 9 to 5 and things like that, is like my day is never typical. It's
Mm,
so different all the time. It really depends on what season it is, how busy it is, how slow it is. Did I sign myself up for a million things at once? I would say with the business, with the focus on like the travel experiences that I create, a, if on average a typical day could literally look like me waking up in the morning. I try to avoid my phone because the minute I open my phone, I'm like responding to so many like then I've lost my morning. It's all going to go towards work. There's always someone to respond to, and because of the time zone differences, there's people who've messaged you all night long and you got to wake up and respond to that. um, but I avoid my phone and then I try and do something that's like for myself, read a book, go for a walk, do some yoga, maybe even just sit and stare outside and just like take in the day. And then I'll get on my laptop and send a few emails, respond to some queries, probably curate like a PDF or something or an itinerary for someone who needs it. Do a little bit of outreach, a little bit of social media. And then at some point, depending on how busy the week is, I'll probably take the day off and go on a waterfall hike or go see a friend or I don't know, paint, do something with my hands, cook a nice meal. And then some weeks are just like I'm going to be behind my laptop for 12 hours, which is I don't recommend. Don't do that.
those must be long days.
I'm like, wow, I wonder why my head hurts today. Well, babe, you've been behind the screen for so long. So yeah.
Oh yeah, that's definitely pretty, I would say pretty exciting for some folks, like the idea of not every day is the same, which I think is pretty cool. Is that, would you say, a draw, or would you say to starting your own business and this type of business, or is that something that you think might be an impediment for some people?
I definitely think it's an impediment for some people. Actually, I've had a lot, not a lot, but I've had a few people that I've known who have kind of dabbled into it and realized, like, actually, I just prefer structure. I like to know what I'm
Mm.
doing in the morning. I like to know what I'm doing in the afternoon. And even for myself, I was like, maybe that's what I want. But I've come to realize that actually I love chaos a little bit. You gotta love how something can come up and you just gotta be there. And especially when you have clients that are visiting, you got to be on your phone. Whether you want to or not, you have to be on call because at any point, someone needs something, someone has a question, it's urgent. It's a draw to people who maybe have a similar personality to mine. And I think I really value it. And that's what kind of keeps me there because entrepreneurship is not so easy. No matter how anybody puts it, it has its challenges. You have a lot of moments where you're like, actually, I'm just going to go back and get a job. But then the rewards are so fulfilling that you're like, wait, no, let me just stick with this a little bit longer. Um, it depends from person to person. Yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned, that sometimes you're on social media a lot, and um especially with someone who's an entrepreneur, right? Like you don't have a job where there's a task to be assigned and
Mhm.
then you get it and you do it. It's everything you do, you go out, you got to go get it, right? So as far as, you know, getting folks to know who you are, getting clients, making partnerships with these different, hotels or things, different businesses around, you know, what has been your strategy for finding all of these things and making them work and making things go?
Mhm. I think the one thing I would say, and again, like I don't realize it in the moment or like in the process of it, but a lot of this industry is who you know. So talking to as many people and getting yourself in the same spaces, like getting connected to people who are also in the same industry as you are as well. I think when I moved here, it was almost as if some people in my industry felt competition, but actually it's so much better if you collaborate. For me, collaboration is everything. If I see someone else doing something that's similar to me or that I really admire, I'm like, hi, I'm so and so, and I thought it would be really cool if we just did this thing together. So like I would say collaborations have really helped me. Um, Going to other people's events, exploring other things that people have going on. I'm like an ambivert, so sometimes it takes a lot to get me out to talk to people, which is surprising because this is what I have to do for work. But I can be like a little bit shy or like a little like timid at first. But what I've realized is when I get out of that space and I actually just like go and I tell people what I'm doing and I talk about it and just have that energy, people feed off of that. And that's really what's helped me get people in my space. And then doing research as well and just seeing what are other people doing out there and how can I join this community and how can I be a part of this. That's really what's been helpful. And then Instagram ads, those are great. Those helped a lot. Yeah.
Noted. So for someone who was a communication major, right? And now you find yourself working in the realm of hospitality, and tourism. What do you think were some of the things that you learned in your training that have been, transferable skills, or things that you're still using, or you're really glad that you picked that up when you were here at Cal State? And then
Yeah.
what are some of the things that you were like, I should have paid more attention to that, or should have sought out that opportunity?
Yeah. Um, I would say actually a lot of what sticks with me is communication styles. So
Mm.
like we studied that theory quite a bit while I was doing my degree, and persuasiveness and cultural communications as well, because moving from the States and coming here, I had a little bit of a culture shock. As much as I visited, as much as I was from here, I had already adopted a new way of thinking. And so being able to adjust and be flexible was a little bit of a challenge. But I did it anyway, and I remember thinking about like, well, what did I learn about like the styles of communication and how to be persuasive and how to actually also talk to people in a way that they feel heard rather than me just kind of like projecting my opinions or
Mm.
my business and so forth. And I still use those in all my relationships, and like personal and professional and familial. I try and like bring those into the conversation. um, I would say that's definitely how I'm using a lot of the comms. I was looking back at some like coursework that I did, and it was so fascinating to me to see some of the papers that I wrote. I was like, wait, I still believe exactly in this concept. Like I still function in this way, because it's easy to lose sight of what you kept from school. Like there's even times where I go back and I'm like, what did I learn that for? And then I see, once I dig deeper, I'm like, okay, I can see how fundamentally this actually weaves into daily life. So I would say the persuasive and the communication style and things like that are definitely implemented in the way that I communicate with clients and how I reach out and how I keep relationships afloat.
Awesome. Yeah. And what would you say is, and it's a two-part question here, so we'll start with the first, but what would you say is the most challenging part of having this hospitality tourism based job and company that you have?
Yeah, everything. I'm just kidding. No, I mean, some of them are beautiful challenges, but I would say, you're working directly with people with different personalities, different needs, different cultures, different ways of understanding things, and it really requires a certain level of patience. Um, you know, and for me, I had to learn how to kind of stay in this state of like a wusa kind of mode, because it's so easy to have like your human self come out and be like, hey, no, like I've tried my best to like make this the most wonderful experience for you. At least be grateful. But people may not be grateful, or they may have a lot to complain about, or they may um, change their mind often, and you just kind of have to like keep your composure and just show up as a professional, and be as hospitable as possible. And I think for me that's where it can get a little bit challenging, because you find my energy burns out because I'm trying so hard to find ways to fit. And sometimes when you have like a group of people, two people want one thing and the other two want something different, and you're like, how do I make everybody happy? Like I'm not a magician, but I'll do my best. And that's where the challenges come in. And then, of course, as I said, you're constantly on 24/7. So you're having a moment, you're having like dinner with friends or like with your family, and you're like, I wish I could just put my phone down, but if I put my phone down, I don't know what could potentially happen to this person's experience. So I find that that's where I have a little bit of a challenge. Is like separating myself from the work, and also trying really hard. I'm naturally a people pleaser, so it makes sense that I got into hospitality. But pleasing everyone is also a bit of a challenge, yeah.
And the second part, which is a little bit more fun question, what would you say is the most rewarding part about this whole hospitality gig?
Oh man, literally the polar opposite of that. When people are pleased, it's like when they're happy.
When
And
people pleasing success.
yes, exactly. When you're successful at your people pleasing. Um, no, there's something so fulfilling about seeing someone have an experience and it pans out, or like they experience it in the way that you envisioned. It's like seeing the concept come to reality, and them sharing the gratitude that they have for the trip and the way that you've curated it, and for my just like getting recognition, and then seeing how life changing it's been for them, it is like absolutely so rewarding always. Yeah,
It's awesome.
that's what keeps me going, is like when that happens, I'm like, yes, this is why I
What
do what I love.
when you
This is
have
why
that moments of, no, I'm just going to get a 9 to 5.
yeah, and then I exactly and it always happens like back to back. It's like, actually maybe I should just get a job, like a regular 9 to 5, have that structure. And then I get like 3 clients that are amazing, or like, okay, not that the others are not, but I just mean in the sense that they have an
All
amazing
clients are
experience.
amazing. We get it. We get
All
it.
clients are amazing. And actually, all clients will teach you something about yourself too. So I'm here for it. But when you have those that have like a spectacular experience, and they're like, this is how I'm seeing life differently, or like, this is what I'm going to go take back home to my kids, or anything like that, I'm like, I'm staying. I'm not going anywhere.
For folks who might just be starting out either in hospitality in general, or maybe just be starting out in entrepreneurship, what are some of the best ways that you, at least from your perspective, what are some of the best ways that they can find opportunities to enter into the field, or to grow in the field, or to start their own thing? Like, what are some of the best ways to find those initial opportunities?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, I think I think, with the new digital age and the fact that you can find everything on pretty much the platforms that you're on, pay attention to the people that are in the spaces that you're interested in, and just like keep a following, in a sense that you can kind of like see how they work, what they do for work, or whatever the case, whether it's a person, whether it's like a business or a brand, or any like hospitality industry, um, and then just reach out. I feel like even for myself, when I initially started, I was so nervous to reach out because I was like, oh, well, maybe they have another process, or maybe they prefer if you only apply when they have they have applications open and things like that. You'd be so surprised how many people are actually so willing to have someone come on board, or maybe they didn't even realize that they needed an additional, person to come on their team, or you can present. One thing I really love to do, and you're probably going to get a lot of no's, but I love to create positions that aren't already existing and be like, hey, listen, I can do this for you. And you probably will see the value of it really quickly. And I would just explain what that is. Like now I've also, I do what I do, but I've also started doing consulting for other retreat organizers and other travel planners who don't have the capacity or don't like to do the admin work and the logistical elements of it. And they didn't know they needed me until I was like, it doesn't look like you're very good at this, or you don't enjoy it, rather. So what if you handed that task off to me and I would do it on like as a consultant of sorts? Um, and I've gotten one yes and like five no's, but that's great, And I
Yeah.
just like, just reach out, find a way to pitch who you are, what you want to do, and even if you don't get a yes in that moment, most likely they will appreciate and maybe keep your email or keep your contact for a future opportunity that may come. So yeah, just reach out, social media, email, however you prefer to do it, LinkedIn. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I again, I think that you're just great at creating book titles. I feel like one yes and five no's would also be
Oh my gosh,
a good book
actually, I
title.
love that. That's a story of my life. Maybe that's going to be like my biography. One yes, five no's. Yep.
But I love it. I mean, essentially, you're describing networking, right? Like, and that's kind
Yeah.
of like the secret sauce to networking is that reaching out, right, to the
Yeah.
other folks who are in your space. So I love to hear because we're always talking about networking and how powerful and impactful that is, and I think that you're kind of right living proof of that, and I think that's really cool. Um,
Yeah.
but another thing is the idea of mentorship. Do
Mm.
have you had much experience with mentorship, whether that's having mentors or having mentees? And do you feel like mentorship is a important thing for someone who's hoping to strike it out on their own, or someone who's looking to be in that hospitality or tourism space?
Yeah. I think mentorship is always a yes for me. And what that looks like could be very different from person to person. In my case, I would say like some of my best mentors were actually my bosses when I was working a 9 to 5, like my previous job before I just dove straight into backyard ventures. She herself is an entrepreneur, and she was working a full-time job while running her own business that I was working for. And sitting with her and like getting to learn so many elements of what it's like to run a business and how to be in the customer service, customer facing industry. And she didn't hold back at all. Like she was very, very supportive of what I was doing. And and it's so great to be in a space like that, right? So she knew I was running events, and she knew I was curious about kind of going into this more creative, travel focused industry. um, and she helped a lot, and I don't even know if she knows that, but she was super super helpful in me understanding a lot of things about business. But also mentorship for me, I think, is also talking to my peers, people that are doing similar stuff to me, because what I've found is what I think I understand about something, someone else understands differently, and maybe even in a way that's more, um, how can I put it, like like it works better. It's a better system, or whatever the case. And when you have that like exchange of knowledge with your peers who are doing similar things to you or are in the exact same position as you, is how you elevate. I think a lot of what I've come to see help accelerate my career in hospitality, in experiential tourism and events, and retreats is that connection and like sitting with people that are doing what I'm doing or have been doing it for longer, or even people that are just getting started actually, because they have such a different perspective and a fresh way of thinking that I'm like, whoa, actually, that's incredible. I love that. So yeah, mentorship can look, it can be different in so many ways, but it should definitely be. Highly encourage that it's sought out.
Awesome. Well, so as far as like different industry trends that happen, I think that across all industries, there is this concept or this idea that the rise of AI, artificial intelligence, and just technological advances in general, are gonna wipe out all these jobs or wipe out all these opportunities. Um, for you, how do you feel about AI and all of these different emerging technologies? Do you feel as though they're a threat to your business, or do you think that they're more of a help to you and your business?
Well, I don't feel a threat, though I think that if people aren't careful, they could potentially, actually, maybe not really, because I think as long as we're dealing with humans on the other side of it, there's no way that AI can take over, because when you lose that human connection in like an experience, a community, like an email exchange, there's sometimes where I get emails from someone, and I can clearly see that it's been written by ChatGPT or whatever, and I use ChatGPT all the time as well. But it's missing that soul element that I'm like, I can't connect with the other person. Who are, like, let me get on a phone call with you so I can understand who you are, because your words don't feel like your words. And I think if you're dealing and you're creating, people are trusting you with travel experiences. They're flying all the way from wherever they're coming from, or it's an experience of a lifetime, and then they're met by robots. They're not going to feel very comfortable with that. At least I wouldn't. And so I think AI is super helpful as an assistant. Like, I use AI when I need to like configure all my thoughts, or maybe I had a conversation with someone and I want to figure out how to break down the meeting notes, for instance, or because it saves you a lot of time when you're, especially someone who's doing a lot of things on their own, when you have so many things on your plate, and then you don't have like a personal assistant or someone to support you with it, and you can just plug it into the system that's going to help you articulate what you need to focus on. It's super helpful. But I also I take care to make sure that I don't overuse it, because I still want my personality to be present in everything that I do. So I think it's helpful, as long as you're using it with caution and mindfully. Yeah.
Well, good. I mean, I'm glad to hear that, there'll always be a need for the per person on the other end of the phone, right? And not a
Yeah.
robot.
No. Yeah. In our industry, I think so. I mean, I'm sure there's other ways that AI might take over, but with hospitality, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, good to know. Good to know. It always blows me away, but we are coming close to the end of our chat today. So
Oh,
I know I can't, like,
oh
it just,
yeah. Okay.
yeah, right? It's just kind of crazy.
15
Um,
minutes.
oh, crazy. But so I want to wrap up with a question that I always love to ask, which is, if you had a time machine, or you had a magic wand, or you had some way that you could pick yourself up and go travel to you when you were getting ready to graduate from CSULB,
Yeah.
what is what advice would you give yourself? And is that advice the same advice you would give to someone who's looking to graduate right now?
Yeah. The first thing that came to mind is trust the process. Because
Mm.
I don't think I was fully trusting the process then. I was just kind of like, okay, let's see, but I'm really nervous and I don't know. And I feel like I should have my shit figured out. And, I had all of these thoughts and expectations for myself. Um, but really trust the process. You will always end up where you're supposed to be, always. And sometimes it may seem a little bit daunting because you're like, well, how do I know where I'm supposed to be? And how can I ensure that I am in the place that I'm supposed to be? And wherever you are, there you are. Like that's where you're supposed to be. Um, and if you're doing the right things, like this is what I would tell myself is like if you're doing all the things to make sure that your heart's in it, there's no need to be worried about it. Yeah, it'll be the right fit for sure. So trust the process. That's what I
Trust the
would say to
process.
myself and to
Okay.
graduating.
Do you think she'd listen though? Is really the question.
No, she wouldn't. She was so stubborn. She still is, but at least she's a little bit calmed down a little bit now. But yeah, she wouldn't have. She would have
All
been like,
right.
"No,
So
I need to know now. What is it gonna be?" Yeah. So here
so
we
yeah.
are,
So
though.
for all you graduating seniors and folks who are stepping out on your own, I'm hearing trust the process. I like it.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, Natalie, it has been fantastic speaking with you today. I think that, there's just so much in your business and in your story and in your experiences that is number one, just cool.
Thank you.
But two, I mean, really inspirational for someone who, who be looking to start their own business, someone who's looking to do something that's kind of outside the box. Because we don't talk every day to folks, alumni who, went to a different country and started their own business. So I think that is fantastic. And I think that I'm just so appreciative that you've been able to spend this time with us. So thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you, Jenna. I had
And
a great.
yeah, yeah, of course, my pleasure. And for those of you who've joined us today, I want to say thank you so much to you as well. We encourage you to, again, watch this again if you need, or send it to a friend or a colleague or someone that might get something good out of it. This will be, as a reminder, available at csulb.edu/alumni. So you can do that. You can watch it again there. We also, though, encourage you to follow us on all these social media platforms that we have, so that way you don't miss the next 49er Industry Chat. We are at CSULB Alumni on all platforms. And if you are particularly interested in hospitality management, we here at the beach have an entire degree program that is based around that. So if you want to learn more, we encourage you to reach out to them. They're hospitality management at csulb.edu, and the folks over there would love to speak to you about, what that program entails and point you in the right direction. So thank you all again so much, and have a fantastic rest of your day.